Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we'll be discussing the role of the state in globalization. Many believe that the role of the state is declining because of globalization. With the rise of multinational corporations, international organizations, and cross-border technology, it might seem like states are losing control. But despite these shifts, the state remains essential in shaping decisions and even limiting the reach of globalization. Let's break down how the state continues to play a crucial role, even in this interconnected world. First, let's understand the four key elements that define a state. A state is more than just a political body. It has essential components that must be in place for it to function properly. These elements include territory, population, government, and sovereignty. A state needs a population. But how many people does it need? The answer is that a state doesn't have a set minimum number of citizens, but it must have enough people to form a stable society. The population doesn't need to be evenly distributed or consist of specific gender ratios, although historically many societies rely on reproduction laws or systems to ensure their population continues to grow. In terms of geography, a state doesn't necessarily need to cover the entire landmass within its borders. What's important is that the population is able to form social, political, and economic relationships that are recognized by both the state and the international community. The second element is territory, which refers to the geographical area that a state controls. It must be clearly defined with recognized borders that distinguish it from other states. But there are different kinds of territory that make up a state's territorial claims. These include terrestrial territory, the land area within a state's borders, including all physical and human resources. Aerial territory, the airspace above a state's land and water, extending upwards, usually up to a specified altitude. A state has the right to regulate air traffic, including control over flight paths, and the prevention of unauthorized flights within its airspace. Fluvial and maritime territory. This refers to bodies of water, including rivers, lakes, and seas that fall within a state's control. Coastal states, for example, have jurisdiction over waters extending out to a certain distance from their coastline, typically 12 nautical miles. States also claim exclusive economic zones, EEZs, up to 200 nautical miles where they have rights to explore and exploit marine resources. Outer space and celestial bodies. Under international law, nations claim rights to their satellites and space activities, though no country owns outer space. Still, countries like the US and Russia have established territorial claims on their space operations. A state's territorial claims help define its borders and ensure that the territory is governed under its laws. But it doesn't need to be an expanse of land. Small island nations or city-states like Singapore still qualify as sovereign states. In fact, how a state manages and defends its territory plays a crucial role in maintaining control over its domestic and international affairs. Next, a state must have a government. This is the entity or group of people who hold power, create laws, and manage the state's affairs. Governments can take different forms: democracies, monarchies, authoritarian regimes, etc. But the key is that there is a system in place to manage and represent the interests of the population. Without a government, a state would have no structure for decision-making, making it impossible to participate fully in the global system. Finally, sovereignty is perhaps the most important element. Sovereignty refers to a state's supreme authority within its territory and its recognition in the international system. It means the state has control over its own affairs and is not subject to outside control. There are two types of sovereignty: internal sovereignty and external sovereignty. Internal sovereignty refers to the state's authority over its own territory and population. It's the ability of the state to enforce laws, maintain order, and protect its people. A state with internal sovereignty can control its own economic policies, security, and social systems. External sovereignty refers to a state's recognition by other states in the international system. It's the right of the state to interact with other countries, form treaties, and participate in global governance. Without external sovereignty, a state's autonomy would be compromised because it wouldn't be acknowledged as a legitimate member of the international community. Now let's take a step back in history and discuss a critical event that shaped the modern understanding of state sovereignty, the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648. This treaty ended the 30 Years' War in Europe and is often cited as the foundation of the modern international system. The Treaty of Westphalia established the principle of territorial sovereignty, meaning that states have exclusive authority within their borders without external interference. It also laid the groundwork for the current system of nation-states, where each state has the right to govern its own territory and make its own decisions without being subject to foreign control. Although the Treaty of Westphalia occurred centuries ago, its principles still govern the way states interact today. In the context of globalization, however, the ideas of sovereignty established then are now being tested as states navigate increasing international cooperation and influence.